Well, Happy New Year, vinyl community. I'm here to show you my vinyl finds for the past month or so since my previous video. And I'm going to start off with some wonderful Christmas VCOT from Bill at the Vinylverse. Bill very kindly sent me this reissue by Annette Peacock on the Sundays label. Bill knew that I'd bought the other one that they put out at the same time, X Dreams. But I hadn't picked up yet the Perfect Release, which was the follow-up to that album originally, and he sent me that version, and it is pressed on a lovely red vinyl. I think we'll be seeing a lot of red vinyl LPs in this lot, just by happenstance. Annette Peacock's music, the word for it is sultry. The music, the instrumentation is a sultry jazz funk sound. Annette Peacock's vocals are utterly sultry. The lyrics are sexy, erotic subject matter comes into play, and the delivery, a lot of it is more spoken than sung. In particular, the lengthy piece that dominates side 2, almost 15 minutes of survival, which even ends up with a bit of Christmas appropriate singing, though, because she winds it up with a little extract. I almost said a snatch. I don't want to get any double entendre in there. A little excerpt of Silent Night. So thank you so much, Bill. This was a great choice and is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Various finds for the month of December. Andrei Kostelanetz conducting the music of the American composer Alan Hovanus, composer of Armenian heritage, who wrote music with a lot of exotic influences. And the sort of title piece on here, which inspired the cover, is The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Commissioned, I think, by Andrei Kostelanetz, and a very strange piece because Kostelanetz stipulated that he wanted the piece to feature the accordion, which is not a sound that you usually associate with orchestral pieces, but this has a very prominent solo part for accordion running all through it, and the narration drawn from the poetry of Omar Khayyam is done by Douglas Fairbanks Jr., so they spared no expense on this. Other pieces include my favorite piece by Hovanus, And God Created Great Whales, which is orchestral music with a more typical Hovanus sound than the accordion one, with a lot of very divided strings, a lot of the string instruments sort of playing not in synchrony with one another. So it creates a very granular sound, a lot of different sound events happening at the same time from the string section, which is kind of the opposite of the way the string section is traditionally deployed. You've got a lot of people playing exactly the same rhythms at the same time. But anyway, this is interspersed with recordings of whale songs. And this was, at the time when recordings of whale songs was kind of a brand new thing. And there was even the Songs of the Humpback Whale LP that became quite faddish at the time. Well, this was a very successful attempt at incorporating that sound into the orchestral tradition, and it's the string sounds that Hovanus conjures up very much have an oceanic feel that really works with those whale songs. There's also the Fantasy on Japanese Wood Prints, which features a prominent solo part for the xylophone. So that's obviously got a very Far Eastern sound to it, as does the final piece, Floating World. That's the music of Hovanus. And this is on a white label from Columbia Masterworks, so a promo copy. It's got the gold stamp on the back cover as well. Another classical album, more traditional, Rimsky-Korsakov Scheherazade, one of my favorite pieces from the classical repertory, conducted by Pierre Montel with the London Symphony Orchestra on the Victrola label with a cute little caricature of Pierre Montel. I finally, for the first time in my life, got to hear this piece performed live about 2-3 years ago by the San Francisco Symphony. So it's just a wonderful piece of music. That's as I spoke of the oceanic feeling of Hovanus's Great Whales piece. Of course, Rimsky-Korsakov does an amazing job of evoking a mighty crashing sea with storms and big legendary ships. The one section is titled "The Sea and Sinbad's Ship," and it's such a wonderfully evocative and pictorial piece of music. And one more in the classical vein. This was quite popular in the mid-70s. Golden Dance Hits of 1600. It is actually a compilation of completely straight performances of Renaissance dance music. In particular, the pieces from a collection called Terpsichore by Praetorius. This is the kind of thing that you'll hear if you watch a production of Shakespeare that's a traditional one, not like one of the modernized Shakespeare interpretations, but a traditional one. They'll always like to have some of this kind of music to introduce or play between the acts. So, and you'll see that there are a whole lot of pieces on this album because they're all very short. This was a great album for classical radio DJs who would, play a 40-minute symphony and an 8-minute overture, and then they'd have like 2 minutes they needed to fill before the news or something like that. So they'd play a track or two off of this just to fill the time, and it was perfect. Next up, from the prog rock band Camel, this is their 1981 album Nude. This is a concept album, and no, it's not about a striptease artist. It's about a Japanese soldier in World War II who is lost on a tropical island and not discovered again until the 70s, when he is brought back to civilization and experiences great culture shock. So this is a lineup of Camel that includes the two original members, Andrew Latimer on guitar, and this is the inner sleeve, guitar and flute, Andy Ward on drums. They're joined by Colin Bass, who appropriately enough plays the bass. He was in the most recent lineup of Camel. They're currently on hiatus, I think, so I don't know if they'll be coming back, but he's been with them for a long time. This was his first album with the band. Also Mel Collins on saxophone, and Duncan McKay is the keyboardist. A couple of previous keyboardists contributed to the writing. Docs is co-written with Andrew Latimer, who wrote everything else. Andrew Latimer with Kit Watkins, who was the previous keyboardist for Camel. And Captured is co-written by Latimer with Jan Schellhaas, who was a keyboard player with the band before that. And lyrics by Latimer's partner Susan Hoover. This is that's a US pressing, on the Passport label. On the ECM label, Keith Jarrett, My Song, classic ECM sound from 1978. And Jarrett is joined by some of the ECM stalwarts from Norway. Obviously, Jan Garbarek on saxophone is one of the big stars of ECM, and the rhythm section of Polly Danielson on bass and Jan Christensen on drums. On the Nonesuch label, Spectrum, New American Music, Volume 5. This is another classical promo, and indeed it's from the same bargain bin as the Hovanus promo LP. Side 1 is a couple of pieces in the 12-tone style, the atonal style, from the 50s and 60s. Milton Babbitt, All Set for Jazz Ensemble, from 1957. And he's written this for saxophone, 2 saxophones, 2 brass, bass, piano, vibes, and percussion. The next piece is by composer T.J. Anderson, an African-American composer who selected the poetry of M.B. Tolson to write on. And M.B. Tolson was an African-American poet who was named the poet laureate of the country of Liberia. And a thing that really I found amazing about this piece of music was from the poetry, and there's a little text insert that gives the words to the pieces. The beginning of the first poem is "The Harlem Gallery, an Afric pepper bird." Afric pepper bird. I never knew where that phrase came from, because that's the title of this ECM album by Jan Garbarek, whom we just heard from, and drummer Jan Christensen is on this as well. That connection there, I had no idea. And the album is completed by the composer Richard Wernick with Kaddish Requiem, a piece from 1969, which obviously from the title is based on the Jewish prayer for the dead. And from the year 1969, as you might expect, it takes in a comment on the Vietnam War, and is for an unusual ensemble: mezzo-soprano, cantor, piccolo, flute, alto flute, clarinet, bass clarinet, violin, cello, sitar, piano, and percussion. Again, this is from, this is from 1971. Sorry, it was the T.J. Anderson piece that was from 1969. But 71, we're still in the thick of the Vietnam War, so the comment is still appropriate. A new reissue from Pamela Z, experimental musician from San Francisco, and I've seen her performing in San Francisco. I've seen her at in the audience at experimental music performances in San Francisco. Vocalist who's come up with extraordinary ways of sampling, treating, and recontextualizing the voice using electronics that she's devised. This is pressed on a translucent gray clear vinyl, sort of silvery, on the Freedom to Spend label, with an insert with liner notes and an envelope containing handbills or flyers for performances from back in the day by Pamela Z. So a very interesting package there. Just in time for Christmas, I picked this up. Actually, I'd seen that the store had it for a while. A still sealed copy of this Christmas album by another Bay Area artist, Golden Bough. This is from quite a while back. This is from 1985. It's on the Kicking Mule label. And mandolin player Leif Sorby from Norway is the connection here, because he's a friend of mine locally, and he's the guiding force currently behind the band Tempest, who've been around for just about as long as this, and are an excellent, excellent folk rock band in their own right. But this is very straight acoustic. Tempest is a real rocking folk rock band. This is purely acoustic collection of Christmas songs. Winter's Dance is the title of the album. I did not do Record Store Day this year, so I picked this up by mail order after the fact. Miles Davis, Live Evil. This is the only Record Store Day item from the Black Friday collection that I picked up. They rather cutely reproduced the vintage inner sleeves from Columbia, and this is on the teal colored vinyl. Actually, I think everybody's probably shown this one already. I shouldn't make such a show of showing it. And just recently released, I think, this reissue of, also on Columbia, There's a Riot Going On, Sly and the Family Stone. Includes Family Affair, I think is the hit single from this, and the excellent Thank You for Talking to Me Africa, which is a slowed down and extended remake of Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again. Epic, actually, not technically Columbia. Still in the CBS family. And on that red vinyl. And one more on the red vinyl. Also a brand new reissue, 200 Motels, Frank Zappa. Of course, the soundtrack to Frank's 1971 movie. This one has been a problem for the Frank Zappa catalog. United Artists has held on to the rights. It was the one that Frank Zappa himself didn't have the rights to. So when Rykodisc reissued the Frank Zappa catalog in the 90s, they had a problem getting the rights to this one. It initially was left out of all the reissue campaigns, and they had to spend an inordinate amount of money to get the rights when they finally did reissue, and it kind of really damaged the company. Didn't really make their money back, I don't think. This is very nicely put together. It includes a reproduction of the original booklet that came with the original LP. There's the naughty page. Let's get into that. Includes bits of the score if you get out your microscope. Includes newts. You got to have newts. And I understand from lyrics that there is dew on those newts. So if your newts are dewy, then Uncle Frank surely understands. There's that red vinyl. This also includes a reproduction of the poster that came with the original LP. If you went into a record store and, after this went out of print and found a used copy, it would be easy to find a copy with the book. Not so easy to find one with the poster intact. I won't pull out the poster and try to unfold it because it's huge, but it's the same image as the cover, just with a little more information down here. And Ringo Starr, who plays Frank Zappa in the movie, is here, but they weren't allowed to show him on the LP cover. So you get this sort of blank area on the front cover, and on the poster, Ringo's painted in, wearing the purple turtleneck that he wears throughout the film. That's it. I didn't think I'd make it. This battery light's been flashing through the entire video, so it's a Christmas miracle. Thanks very much. Be well. I'll be talking with you again soon, I think, and take care. Bye-bye.